Okay. Hello guys. I hope this is audible enough. Okay, let's quickly solve this project together. Now this is shell basics. Now the reason I'm doing this video is for the sake of those that doesn't really have a background knowledge as far as software engineering is concerned. Now I'll try to make this short, so I might not really go into a detailed explanation. But if you actually need a more detailed explanation, you can either go through these resources here. They're more than enough to actually solve these tasks. Or if you feel this is still not enough, you can go online. There are unlimited resources as far as shell basics is concerned. Now this is what the project will revolve around, these functions here. As you can see them, like basically that is what the project is all about. All these commands here, what they do, how you can manipulate them to actually navigate through in your shell. So now let's just go straight to now. One thing about ALX project is that before you start anything, make sure you read the instructions very well and understand it before you start, so that you won't end up being frustrated and wasting your time unnecessarily. Now after reading all those materials, then you should be able to answer all these questions. What is shell, difference between shell and terminal, so you can take your time to read through the instructions. Now after reading the instruction, you feel okay, you have enough knowledge to start the projects. Now the first thing you're supposed to do is read this instruction very well. Like take your time and understand it. Because first thing first, we all know that as far as ALX is concerned, you're meant to use either Vim or Emacs editors. Those are the three text editors that is allowed. Then your script will be tested on Ubuntu 20.04. Now for this particular project, the script should be exactly 2 lines. That means it shouldn't be more than 2 lines, which will contain, the first line will be your shebang, then the second line will be the solution to your problem. Now let's read further. All your files should end with a new line. If you want to know where, you can click on this button. Now the next thing is that the first line of your file should be exactly this. We call it shebang. This script, that's the first thing you put in your file before you now write the solution. Now at the root of your repository, the repository you create on GitHub, you should create a readme file, but you're not creating it with GitHub. You create it in your terminal, then you push it with the other files. Okay, now a readme file at the root of the folder of this project, describing what each script is doing. That is what you put in the readme file. Although the checker doesn't really check the content, all it will check for is to make sure that you actually have a readme file at the root of the directory and that is not empty, because if you don't have it, your mark will be deducted. If you have it and your readme file is empty, your mark will also be deducted. So just endeavor to always create a readme file whenever you want to work on a project, after creating the repository and the and the folder. So that means if you look at this, that means we are creating 2 readme files. Now look at this, a readme file at the root of the repository 1, a readme file at the root of the folder of this project. That means the repository you created is not for this project alone. For the subsequent ones too, you use the same repository until you are instructed otherwise. Now you are not allowed to use backticks. This. Okay. You are not allowed to use backticks. That's the ampersand, this and this. That's what this line means. Now in the third line, all your script must be executable. To make your file executable, you must use this command. Along the line, you read more about this particular, what this command means, the function and how. You read more about it. Okay, now sorry guys, please. Okay, Now, the first another thing you're meant to check whenever you want to start any project is that check here this GitHub repository. If you look at it, if you realize okay you've not created it before, that means you're creating a repository, GitHub repository, then you now clone into it. But if you've created it before, that means all you need to do is just create the directory and start working. But for this case, you have to create this, then create this inside, create this directory inside the repository you've created before you start working. And you will have two readme files. One readme file will be inside here, another readme file will be inside here. Please, let's get it very clear. Okay, now you should know how to create a readme file by now. So if you don't know, you can go to GitHub. It's very simple and straightforward. I believe we should know how to create a GitHub repository by now. So just come here, you can just put the name here, leave it here as private, as no, change it to public here. It has to be public, and click on this. Or there is a green button here, it's still loading, the network is a bit slow. Click on the button and follow the instructions there. It's quite okay. Let me just run you through this. Okay, you will come here. As you can see, this is ticking public. Leave it as public. Put the name of the repository you're meant to create. Put it here. Then scroll down and click on this. Once you've clicked on this button, the repository will be created. Then you copy the link and clone into that particular repository. So having done that, let's dive into it. The first thing we're supposed to do is let's clone into the GitHub repository. Okay, I'm already inside the root directory here. So now I want to clone into the repository. I hope this is clear enough. I hope you can see it very clearly. This is the link for the repository I'm cloning into. Okay, now don't forget, whenever you're cloning into a repository, you're meant to use your personal access token you generated on GitHub for past projects. You can still use the same thing until it has expired. That's if you actually set expiring date for it. Okay, now this is where I will insert my personal access token. Then I'll put a hand sign in front of it, as you can see it here. There's a hand sign before the G. Okay, just press enter. As you can see, I got a warning. I appear to have cloned an empty repository, blah blah blah. Okay, fine, that's okay. So the next thing we'll do is I will go into this repository I created. Let's cd into it. Okay, now as you can see, I'm inside the repository now, as you can see. So now the first thing I will do inside the repository is to create a readme file. Please don't forget. So now make sure your readme file is never empty. Make sure you always put something in it. And you can put anything you want. What's it called? Okay, that's all I want to put inside here. I'm saving and I'm exiting. Okay, now this is what I just did. I just did this. I just created a readme file at the root of the repository. So if you check now, if you do ls, as you can see, that's the only thing we have in this repository. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'll create a directory for this particular project with this name. You can always copy it for typo error, because it has to be the same thing. If there's any mistake, the checker will not see it. So okay, I think it's hanging. Okay, let's restart it. It's actually hanging. It does that sometimes if the network is slow. So okay, let's open a fresh one. Okay. Good. Okay, we are back in. I'm going into the root directory now. Okay, now what do I have? Okay, this is the repository I just cloned into. We are going inside now. And then this to save us time. Okay, now as you can see, we still have the readme file. So the next thing we're supposed to do is now we will create a directory for this project we are about to do. And what's the name of the directory? This is it here. As I said earlier, you can always copy it to avoid typo error. Okay, I've created it. Now I'll cd into it. Fine. Now the first thing I'll do is to create another readme file inside this directory rather. So as you can see, we're supposed to create two readme files. Don't forget, because if you omit it, fine, as you're doing the project, it will check, but at the first deadline, the second checker that will check your work, that will score you, because the other checker you're clicking on is just to just check the completion of the project. That the checker that will check at the first deadline will actually score it. It will be the one that will score you. I hope you understand now. So I want to create the second readme file. Just like I said, make sure your readme file is never empty. It's never empty. So sorry about the noise outside. I just have to quickly do this before I start my homework. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and I'm back to my terminal. Okay, now we've created the repository, we've cloned into it, we've created the directory for the project, we've created the readme file at the root of the repository, we've created the readme file at the root of the project file, as you can see now. Now what's the next thing we're supposed to do? For our first task, task 0. Now they said write a script that prints the absolute path name of the current working directory. The one thing about ALX project is that whenever you, after solving it, if you actually want to check whether what you did is right or wrong, you can always check with this. I hope you get it now. Okay, now so let's work on this. Now don't forget this instruction. It's very important. That the first line of all the project or for the files you create, it has to start with shebang. Now let's do this. The file name of the first project is this. So I'm going to copy this. Now go to my terminal. Okay, now I'm inside. So the first thing we're supposed to do, let's go and copy our shebang and paste it before we forget. Please watch very closely. That's the first thing we're supposed to do. Now enter. I'm on a new line now. Now the question is, write a script that prints the absolute part name of the working project. Now the answer to that is pwd. If you check, if you have gone through the materials, you will know. Okay, now that's the solution to the question asked. What they said, your file must only send on a new line. So as you can see, I'm on a new line, as you can see now. So I will just save it and I will exit. We've created the file for the first task, but that is not all. Let's go back to the instruction and check again. Don't forget that we were told that we must make all the files executable. Now, you using this command. Now this is how it will look like. This is what it will look like. Now I want to show us something. I'll just copy this. This is what the command will look like. I want to show us something here. Now guys, look at this. I did ls. This is the file I just created. This is the readme file. Now note the color of this before I make it executable. Note the color. As you can see, they are all, this is white, this is white, right? Okay, fine. Now I want to make it executable. This file, it means the file name, that is what you put there. I'm putting this name here. Enter. We're done. Now let's check. Let's do ls again and see. Can you see this? That the color changed to green. So that means once your file is executable, it will change to green color. Now let's test it. Let's see if it actually works or not. So if there's any mistake, we've followed everything that was stated here. Now let's check.